CJ Mims. So you talk about bringing two guys from Penn State. We brought two guys from ECU in the portal too.
Sure did.
So CJ's spent 3 seasons at ECU. I didn't know this about it until I was doing research, but he was actually at one time committed to Wake Forest out of the portal, and then when Dave Clawson retired, he went back in the portal, and we added him. And I think the defensive tackle room, man, that was we saw him and 2 other guys get added to that room. That was a room that we've got to be better there. So I'm curious to see CJ. He's experienced. He's going into his 4th year this year. And he's a guy that played a lot, played in 12 games in 2023, all 12 games in 2024. So he's played a lot of meaningful snaps, and he's another guy that later in the year, I think, was playing some of the best ball of his career. So I know you're high on him, Troy. He's an in-state guy. Coming over from a program that just beat that program down the road. So he's going to bring that mentality, which we can appreciate that. But look at this dude look at him running, man. He's 6'2", 300 and something. And look at the way he moves, man.
Big body, man. He's bringing a chip on his shoulder too. There's a video that Carolina football just posted, and it's the guys, it's almost like a prowler push, but they're like picking it up and throwing it. And it kind of like, it flips, right? But there's weights on it. And CJ Mims, I was trying to find the clip of it so I could just kind of hold the phone up and present it in here. But that dude is a hoss, man. I mean, you look at that guy and he's like just a prototypical, like interior defensive lineman, in my opinion. He's a guy, that I expect, to play at the nose tackle. He's coming from ECU, just right down the street. He's a North Carolina product out of high school, like you said, Trevor. A guy that saw action, some action at ECU last year, 4 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks. But 6'2", 300 and some pounds. And with an ability to shed off blockers and put some kind of interior pressure in the backfield. So I'm super excited for this guy, just him being able to come in and anchor that interior defensive line. I'm super high on CJ Mims this season. Something about those ECU guys, man, they just bring another level of nastiness. It's almost like Willie Lampkin coming from Coastal. You turn on the film and you watch him play, they just play with that edge. And I'm looking for CJ to do big things and hold that nose tackle spot down. And really, really do some big things for us on defense.
And these D tackles, man, they might not put up the most stats, but they're not supposed to do that. They're big gap fillers. That's what big body create havoc for the other guys to go make plays.
Yeah, you're not gonna see a high sack level from an interior defensive lineman, but you get a guy like CJ coming in and filling up a A gap or a B gap or something like that, and just putting pressure on the interior, from the interior, and you let guys like Melcart and Smith Vilbert and some of these linebackers that we got, Andrew, come in on a blitz, and next thing you know, quarterback scrambling 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and you've got a tackle for a loss or a sack. So good point there, Trevor.
I think one of the things I would like to add is that, I'm really curious to see, can this room step up, right? Like, because we're going to go, as we go through tonight, there's a lot of players that just don't have the numbers. They don't have the experience, even though, like we talked about, Smith Vilbert, but he wasn't like a full-time starter, right? I don't think any of these guys have been a full-time starter, but
go ahead, Chris.
What I want to see, and it's hard not to refer back to the past, right? Because we're in such a new era. And so I will do it, right? Like, this is a completely new shaped D line, and everybody's been fretting like, oh, this is our, and I did it earlier on in this episode, right? And it is one of the concern spots for me, but it's also like, the interior in the past did not provide much for us in the past. Right?
A lot of people were raving about, and this is no knock to this player at all,
I know. Yeah.
There was a certain player that transferred down south to the SEC.
Yep.
And everybody was raving how it was such a big loss. And while it may have been, and time will tell, I just thought that there were better options than what we were getting from that cat. I really, really do. I think, and I'll be honest with you, I'm more excited. Well, don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have retained that player in Chapel Hill for this season because I think he would have been a very key and big piece to our defense. But guys, we went to every home game last season and quite a few road games for the past 2 years. And look, things just don't work out. They don't work out. You go and you find another opportunity. But I wouldn't be disappointed with having a guy like CJ fill that spot. Because I just think I think, you know, you look at what this coaching staff and this scouting department with Lombardi's done, man. They've identified areas of weakness. They've went out and got bodies, and they've got some depth. And D-line, man, you know, there's a ton of new faces. Us as Carolina fans have been spoiled. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We've been spoiled to retain players and keep them, and keep them in house. But it's a defensive line. It's a whole new unit and a ton of new faces. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how these guys mesh. But, you know, adding guys like CJ and some of these other guys that we've added, you know, I think Carolina fans will be pretty surprised with what we got this season.
I'm totally fine with this defensive line being retooled, right? Because we, like you said, we sat through so many games at home and then also watching on TV away, and you saw so many running backs just blow through the middle of this line.
Guys being moved around way too easy.
5-star prospects coming to Carolina and just being moved out of the way, freelancing. I mean, we're not just making this stuff up, right? This was rumblings coming from the camps and all that stuff, freelancing, not staying in their gaps. And I think somebody like CJ Mims, CJ, if you're listening to this, bro, we pumping you up, bro. Like
Hop
somebody
on the pod,
like
CJ. We want a CJ Mims episode.
Let's make it happen. But someone like CJ Mims that was pursued by Carolina, but an offer never came, right? You know, this is no slight to East Carolina. I mean, they've handed us, you know, L's recently in the past.
Some pretty good ass whippings over the last
decade. I mean, totally. But you got a kid now coming to Carolina that probably with a chip on his shoulder. Give me that kid that's going to stick to his assignment, right?
Buy in. Lock into what we got going on. Buy into the culture.
Hey, Tar Pit crew. Thanks for tuning in today. You just heard a clip from a recent episode where we broke down one of the key position groups. If this episode hit the mark, do us a favor, like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support keeps the podcast rolling. You can catch full episodes of the Tar Pit Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Don't forget to follow and subscribe today. The Tar Pit Podcast is proudly powered by Untapped Sports Network. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Heels.